Hey guys, this is Joseph Izani, otherwise known as a dilettante on Instagram, here with Janna Ireland at D&J Gallery. And we're preparing to discuss what I would like to submit as art historical achievement. But before we get into that, we need to appreciate with your piece here, wife and mother, we would call it, anthropologically speaking, a sacral alignment of the society over time, over its history, requiring a sort of visual iconography to connect, in effect, the Christian mass to a higher power.
You mentioned the church, which was great to mention because so much of the history of painting developed because painting was a way to tell people who couldn't read stories. So you could tell a story from the Bible or tell a story about someone very important in society and their place in society and what everything in their life meant through painting. And so a whole language evolved around painting. Gestures meant something, specific pieces of fruit meant something. And in doing this work and the work that I've been doing for the last 10 years or so, I've been thinking a lot about that language and how to repurpose it for photography and for the work that I'm interested in.
What sparked that fascinating reflection of sort of mass illiteracy?
When I moved to LA to go to grad school, I started going to the Getty and to LACMA and to the Norton Simon. And that's when I started really thinking about painting in a serious way. I mean, I'd been an admirer of paintings for a very long time and always visited museums, but it was through going to the same museums again and again and really beginning to contemplate the same paintings that I began to want to investigate that language and the way it was used in the work.
And I'm presuming there's a lot of spiritual expressions within those museums.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of the paintings are very religious.
Yeah. I think that's really why I find this so magnificent. What are those emotions that you were really trying to evoke in us, to instill in us?
There definitely is a sense of anxiety in these, at least that's what I was thinking about when I was making it. And it's not something that people pick out a lot when they look at it. But it's about, these two roles that this woman, and I say it's me, but it's not me at the same time. It's not my house, but it is my husband, it is my children. And just figuring out how the two parts of this person's life fit together and how they're separate. There's this sort of semi-public performance of being a wife for someone who is a professional person, as as the photograph suggests. And then the version of the person at home with her children. And throughout this body of work, there are two other complete family portraits, but they all have some kind of fracture in them. And I haven't figured out why I keep doing that. But it does, here, the husband and wife are separate from the children. In another one, everyone is together, but the mother and father's heads are cut off. And in another one, they're in 4 separate frames. So I just have this instinct to deny the people looking at it a complete family portrait. And I don't know why, but it started with this, and this was the first way that I envisioned photographing the family for this work.
There is an immortal affirmation of life through this saga.
I think that there is a sadness in the work, and there is something political in the work. It's about a version of a modern American family and what their life is like.
I mean, that's the point, because we're human. We experience life in universal fashions, universal manners, and you're more or less, I don't want to, for lack of a better word, you're forcing us to look at the world more beautifully.
I think that there is a way in which I'm very reserved as a person, and that using that language is a way to express those ideas and push against my own limits a little bit, but not too much. Maybe I'm not ready to.
Please elaborate on the inspiration of this collection of your work.
The work that is here today is from a body of work that's actually a sequel to another body of work. When I moved to LA in 2011, my husband and I started spending Sundays with his grandfather out in the valley in this big empty house that he'd been living in since the 50s. And I started making portraits of myself there, occasionally photographing my husband, photographing the things that were in the house and had been sitting unmoved for 25 years. And I went through all that work, and then we moved back to New York, moved back with children, started visiting again, and I wanted to make work that dealt with the entire family in that space and some of my my class anxiety about where I fit into this new family, and then turned into something that I think is more just about being a wife, being a mother, performing for other people all the time. But when I look at this one and think about what my intentions were when I was making it, I think a lot of it is about aging. Thinking about becoming older and thinking about making something that actually dealt with vanity in a real way. Because usually in these photographs, the character is finished, is polished, and this is about getting there. When I started the work, and I'm talking about the class anxiety, I was in my mid-20s, and now I'm in my early mid-30s. And I do think that the work is, it's more relaxed, it's anxious, but not, it's anxious in a deliberate way. It's not like I'm trying to do one thing and my anxieties are leaking out all over the place, which is something I see when I look at the older work.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay.
It's more controlled than that now. As I've just grown more confident in my ability to express my ideas.
And I'm here to affirm them. This is a fantastic affirmation of life.